Welcome back. Now, Lagos State, having the highest number of bridges in Nigeria, is where we'll start. And Dotu Oguyemi highlights the remedial efforts ongoing along critical road infrastructure in that state.
Rehabilitation and reconstruction works on the way on federal roads in Lagos is visible as long stretches of roads have turned construction sites with earth-moving equipment and men walking day and night, leaving motorists to bear the brunt of traffic.
Though they're trying to find a lasting solution, but what are going through here,
We take them for what they are still doing at the moment. We appreciate everything, but we still beg for more.
Unarguably, traffic is inevitable along these routes, but the gains of jobs created, both technical and manual, is a part of stimulating economic growth.
Lagos has the highest volume of traffic, so we need to keep Lagos on. Lagos roads must move. This is a commercial nerve center of the country, so most of the roads, especially the ones that leads into the port and leads into all those sensitive areas, they need to be put in a proper shape.
Some bridges where work are being carried out include Domalong, Ujuelegba, Eco Bridge, Independence Bridge, as well as Ijora Apapa flyover. Work on Falomo Bridge is however yet to commence, while the contractors are moving to the second phase of the third mainland bridge repair works.
The first contract is the one for the reinforcement and the jacketing of the abutment of the ring road going to Third Mainland Bridge. That is already completed. Remain to change the bearings of the bridge and the joint on top of the bridge.
With the pace of work set to guarantee timely delivery of the project, the difficulties experienced by motorists will soon be a thing of the past. In Lagos, Dotun Oguyemi, NTA News.
In Kogi State, Jacob Sani reports that federal roads in the state are receiving adequate attention.
The dualization of 59.9 Lokoja Okene Benin Road project, which is part of the entire remedial repair work on federal highways across the country, consists of construction activities which include asphalt concrete paving, stone-based surfacing, side and median line drains, slabs and bus culverts in line with the specification and designed to ensure safety of high-velocity vehicles on the highway. Targeted at opening up settlement and access road for goods and services. The progress report from Obajana to Okene and from Okene to Aushi indicates that failed sections of the highway are finally being reconstructed.
This was the initiative of the Mr. President, who wants Nigeria to have ease movement during the ember months.
Contractors are fully on site in the entire 4 sections and were mobilized to complete the process of asphalt pavement installation.
By the end of this year, we are hoping to complete maybe about 12 kilometers.
From Abajada to Kabajosha is good.
This road now is okay by us.
The delivery of the federal highway project to Nigeria requires adequate coordination of all resources, cooperation of host communities, and consistency in the management of funds allocated for the road remediation project. From Lokoja, Kogi State, Jacob Sani, NTA News.
And Daniel Obai in Oka, Anambra State reports on some major road and railway projects that are ongoing under the current administration in that region.
Nigeria, no doubt, has benefited from his infrastructure development strides. Amongst them is the construction of Second Niger Bridge. The project is intended to reduce pressure on the old existing bridge and ensure unfettered movement of vehicles in the area. Work is on top speed as the contractor strives to meet deadline. The once nightmare of motorists, Umunya axis of the Enugu-Onitsha Expressway, has been reconstructed with work ongoing from the Oka end of the road. Recent decision of the President Muhammadu Buhari's administration to further construct a railway line that will start from Owerri, the Imo State capital, through Anambra to Ebonyi State, captures the true wind of change of the present administration. The move, stakeholders have agreed, will boost the social and economic status of the zone, more so the commercial cities.
From Oka to Enugu is on work.
The government of the President, His Excellency Muhammadu Buhari, is a man of action, and I know once he has said it, he will do it.
Citizens, especially those of the southeast, expressed optimism that the railway project will come to fruition in no distant time. In Oka, Daniel Okbai, NTA News.
Now, let's hear from Mina Ukobasi on some road projects going on in Enugu and other parts of eastern Nigeria.
In Anambra State, rehabilitation work is in progress at the outstanding sections of the Enugu-Onitsha Expressway. Work has been completed in some sections of the road, making movement much easier for commuters and motorists.
The work is going on well. You can see what is happening between Ongoin and Amobia. Road is going, I think it's coming from two sections now.
Moving from Oka to Onitsha, looking at the road is progressing, and the quality of work there is encouraging. We must appreciate Mr. President for that.
Meanwhile, in Enugu State, a visit to Amansi-Enugu Tower Road indicates that remediation work is seriously ongoing. Although contractors declined comments, motorists were, however, elated and thankful to government for the prompt attention on the road.
The road is sometimes a little bit bad, but now we can see the government is about doing it. So it's a bit good.
Amansi Road is very good now. They work on it now, well.
Still on a positive note, the Oji River section of the Enugu-Onitsha Expressway is also receiving a first lift. However, the state of Uwonyama axis of the Enugu-Onitsha Expressway is still a far cry from the rest.
Very soon, the contract will be awarded. The contractor on the adjoining section of the road to carry out palliative works so that people from Enugu State and road users in general will have a smooth passage.
The Enugu-Onitsha Expressway is a major road linking the southeast to the north and the south-south. In Enugu, Mina Adobu Kobasi.
Now, with a few weeks to Christmas, hopes are high that respite will soon calm the way of motorists and commuters plying the Calabar-Itu highway. This follows federal government's plan to commence work soon along the highway.
I'm happy to tell you that they've been directed to go back to site, and the issues that were involved have been sorted out, and I'm sure you will see them back to site this dry season. We are going to create a new carriageway, and then we are going to also reconstruct the former carriageway. Because of the volume of traffic, government has seen the need to dualize the road.
And we will hear more from the man in charge of works and housing in the person of Babatunde Fashola. But that will be after the break.
A scout was looking around Bayelsa. Luckily for me, he came to my school. And that was how my journey of becoming the Nestle Milo Basketball Championship MVP began. Along the path, some people tried to discourage me because I was short. But then I got to realize that it's about your heart, not about your height. Sometimes I get discouraged going for training and all that. Sometimes I trek. And that is what every person that knows where he or she is going has to do, to play along with the challenges and make sure you overcome it. I am grateful for the platform Nestle is giving to young athletes like me. My name is Regina Donano, and this is my journey.
Nestle, good food, good life. You don't really own a watch until you own a Chris Air. Until you own a Chris Air.
Black Watch by Chris Air.
Sexy. The Black Watch.
Beautiful.
The Black Watch.
Magnetic.
Sexy.
Black.
Elegant.
Love the new Black Watch by Chris Air.
Chris Air.
Visit us at Transcorp Hilton Lobby, opposite UBA, Abuja.
Wake up. Nothing can hold us down.
Breakfast today, every day.
Nestle, Good food, good life.
They swore an oath to serve our fatherland and defend the people. They traded their freedom, comfortable homes and mortgaged their lives on the battleground for our unity and peaceful living. These are the great, fearless, loyal and committed Nigerian armed forces who risked their lives courageously to safeguard our borders. But in the line of duty, many never returned. Nigerians, arise, let's celebrate our fallen heroes. Put on the remembrance emblem with pride to support the incapacitated and families of our fallen heroes.
It is indeed befitting to honor the memory of the gallant martyrs and men who paid the supreme sacrifice to keep the country united.
President Muhammadu Buhari enjoins all ministries, parastatals, religious and corporate bodies to donate generously to the Emblem Appeal Launch. Send your donations to these accounts. Account name, Emblem Appeal Launch. Account number 393-200-7526. EcoBank Nigeria PLC.
And now let's welcome the Minister of Works and Housing, Mr. Babatunde Fashola, to the program. You're welcome, Honorable Minister, you're welcome to the program.
Good evening and thank you for having me, and good evening to viewers and listeners at home.
Now, we saw in the reports by our correspondents enormous road projects ongoing in many parts of the country. What else should the viewer know about this concept of remediation?
Well, thank you for that question, and perhaps let me first apologize for my voice. I think I'm coming down with a flu or something, but it's to first say that we deal with two broad seasons in the country. The first is the rainy season. We start preparing for that from March, and then the end of the year, which is high volume, high traffic season, which we call the Ember months, that climaxes between December and the New Year in January. We start preparing for that from September. So all of what you are seeing now are the manifestations of work that has started since September. So the reports that you have featured across the country with your nationwide reach is us going to the climax of the end of year movement, where many Nigerians from all over the world are coming home. People want to get married. People are going to connect with families, traveling across the length and breadth of the country. People importing things, shipping things, putting pressure on the ports. Also, the need to move fuel to service all of the vehicles that need to transport. So it's a high logistics season, but we are prepared to deal with it. Some of the things we have done first is to tell all our contractors to start remediation work, either in addition with construction work that they are doing, or to suspend construction work and focus on remediation work so that the movement during this period is easier. We have also told them to open as many diversions that they have created during construction, which was meant to protect their workers from being run into, to make it easier for people to move. We have met with the Petrol Tanker Drivers Union, the luxurious bus owners. We have taken feedback from FRSC about bad routes, and we are responding as best we can. Let me point out that it is widely reported that there is a fiscal and financing problem. So we don't have enough money to do all of what we want to do. The country is also trying to borrow to fund infrastructure. Some people think we shouldn't borrow, but the borrowing process has been initiated by Mr. President. Just this week, I was in Parliament with the Minister for Finance to go and make the case to the representatives of the people, the legislators, about the concerns that Nigerians through them have expressed about Nigerians borrowing on one hand, and concerns about how to fix the infrastructure on the other hand. It's a catch-22 situation. And so these are the challenges.
Yeah, it's really a challenge. Nigerians have actually, some Nigerians have spoken against the loan that you just talked about, perhaps because of what has happened in the past, where previous administrations did same thing without effectively and efficiently utilizing the loan. But we will go there in a short while. But for now, let's concentrate on the issue of remediation that we're talking about. How effective has this program been? Do you have a monitoring mechanism that enables you to see what your contractors are doing? Because, of course, the Yuletide is getting to speak.
Oh, yes. It's important that you also raise that question. We have controllers of works in every state of the country, including the FCT. So some of the reports that your correspondents have covered, you've seen our controllers in many states briefing. And we get these reports every day. We also have consultants employed to supervise the execution of these works. I get these reports. The directors at the headquarters get these reports. So also, apart from using this platform that covers the country, we post all of this information also on our Twitter handle, which is at FMWH, which is abbreviation for Federal Ministry of Works and Housing. Some of these reports are there. We also have these reports on our ministry's website, which is www.http:/Federal Ministry of Works Nigeria, Works and Housing Nigeria. All of these reports are currently and continuously being loaded. Apart from that, I hold meetings every month, every week. At 6 p.m. yesterday was when we rounded off our meeting on works on the Benin, Eho, Auchi, Okene, Obajana Road, and all of the directors were again mobilized back to the field with the controllers who were with us to continue to supervise what is going on there. And as I was coming this evening, I've got reports by text messages that Ilesha to Ife has improved. We have works going on Old Oyo Ogbomoso. I got reports also that the Eho section, which is the very bad part, has become motorable. Work is going on the Ekpoma section, and it will continue all the way to Okene. All the 4 contractors in that axis have been directed to mobilize to site. And this is true of what you have reported also about the east. We are mindful that the area through Asaba to Onitsha will be very, very busy on the old bridge while work is going on the second Niger bridge. So we want to make that motorable from Onitsha all through to Oka and all the way to Enugu. Parts of the Port Harcourt area is being prepared now for asphalting to link Port Harcourt to Enugu and the 5 states in the southeast. We have asked the contractor on the Aba, Owerri also to go back to site. And Apapa Oshodi trying to help relieve the port. Work is going on there. It's caused some pain. Lagos, Ibadan, Abuja to Kanu are some of the places where we've also asked contractors suspend the main works, try and remediate the potholes so that people can move, open up the diversions, and we expect that we will get to the climax point from this new week, starting from the 16th, when movement for Christmas really begins, and will peak around the 23rd, 24th into the new year.
Now, how does the root remediation program currently going on differ from other intervention approaches, in the past? Is there any additional or creative, input this time around to see how effective that can be?
Well, specifically, what we want to achieve first is that we are come to render service. And sometimes in the process of trying to construct, there is delay. And at this peak period, which is like an emergency period, we have to intervene to ease the condition. Construction and commuting are difficult if undertaken at the same time. But we understand that this is a window of about 4 to 6 weeks, and we have asked all our contractors to keep emergency gangs through this period to ensure that commuters can travel, to ensure that the nation can distribute fuel, and to ensure that commuters have a more conducive travel experience. What I can say very, very confidently, as we complete some of these projects in the new year, in 2020 and into 2021, people will see relief. The pain and the inconvenience will certainly have been well worth it by the time we finish. What is happening is that with limited resources, this government is trying to do so many things at the same time. We have now 524 road contracts across the country. So the case is no longer that there is no road being constructed in my state. The new case now is, when are you going to finish? And this is challenged by resources. As at yesterday, when we were closing and tallying off our liabilities, we were owing contractors about 314 billion naira for work already done. Now, I think it's important to quickly make this point. Contractors don't keep building materials. They don't keep labor. So, they order building materials, sand, laterite, aggregate, cement, iron rods, bitumen, when we pay them from their suppliers. So once they don't have money, no supplier will supply. If they don't have the resources, they can't work. And in some of these bad places, I need to reiterate the point that the contractor also has to move his building materials through some of these bad sections. So it's a very, very difficult logistic experience. And I just urge people to bear with us.
Now, you talk about funds, the paucity of funds, but Ministry of Works and Housing is one ministry, that gets a huge chunk of, the national budget, in terms of allocation over time. And frankly speaking, many Nigerians may be thinking in the direction of perhaps funds not adequately deployed in some very important roads, as the case may be. And this issue of most of us which have raised, I think, is an issue of concern. If you, as the Minister of Works and Housing, is talking about paucity of funds in the ministry. So what is the way out of this?
I think, first, in answer to your question, you are right. The Ministry of Works usually gets the largest share of the budget, but that is what it is, a budget. It is not cash. It is a statement of intent of what the government wants to do. It speaks very, very clearly to the Buhari administration's commitment to fund infrastructure in order to grow this economy and create employment. Now, how we raise the cash to fund that budget is another thing entirely. And it speaks to the fact that from 18 billion naira, which was the budget of the last administration, their last budget, 18 billion naira for all of these roads we are talking about, it has moved to almost 300 billion naira with the price of oil dropping. And these are significant changes of commitment. When we earn more money from oil, we budgeted less for roads. So we now have a deficit budget that needs to be financed by borrowing. And people are legitimately concerned about how much we borrow and about our debt service. But we are in that situation now where we must borrow, invest it in these assets, because these assets will last 25 years, 30 years, and we should finance them with today's cash, not tomorrow's cost. So this is one of the reasons. And in any event, if we don't borrow, we won't solve this problem unless somebody can find an alternative way to raise resources to pay.
All right, now let's talk about the funds that are available. Road development challenges are attributable to some factors, and one of which could be what we usually hear, that there is a distance between approval, implementation, actual construction, and result. Does that make sense to you?
But that is eminently sensible. Awarding a road today doesn't mean that it is going to be built just tomorrow. It will require so many processes. You have to comply with laws. You have to comply with the procurement process. You have to advertise, because we are under public scrutiny, Freedom of Information Act. We are in a democracy where everybody is entitled to ask questions about what you're doing. So you are best off following process. And so all of these things, when a road is awarded, contracts have to be signed. After you have gotten the approval from FEC or whatever, legal agreements have to be signed. Contractor has to get a bank guarantee to ensure that money paid to him doesn't disappear. Then he has to mobilize materials. So he first has to order from a quarry to blast rocks, to excavate laterite, to excavate rocks and crush into aggregates, order the production of bitumen, order the production of steel, move all of these to his batching plant, mix them into concrete, transfer them to the site, and then use labor to begin to lay. So you will hear one of our controllers saying what they have targeted before the end of the year is to asphalt 12 kilometers. That's the work that can be done within the specific time. So some of these roads we are talking about are 300, 400, 250 kilometers, linear kilometers. Each one of them, some of them are 2 lanes, some are 4 lanes, some are 8 lanes. The Lagos-Ibadan Expressway is 10 lanes. So these are the reality. So they won't happen overnight. And that is why sometimes at this kind of time, we say suspend the construction, fix the bad patches, and let people pass. And after the peak period and the pressure, normal service can return to construction.
All right. Now, considering the rate of funding of road projects and the fact that contractors have barely 7 months of the year to carry out both palliative and actual construction because of weather situation, and vis-a-vis the issue of budgeting, now, would you advocate for concessioning of major federal roads in this country to the big 10 major road construction contracting companies, in a situation where the concessionaires will be responsible for raising funds, maintenance and repairs of roads concessions to them? Is that a possibility?
Certainly, I would. And every year we send list of roads to the Infrastructure Concession Regulatory Commission. The truth is that I'm not sure that those who make the argument of concessioning as many related to the real economy. So how many construction companies have 200 billion naira to invest in a road? So look at the quoted ones and look at their total turnover, look at their profit, and it is only their profit they can invest. Now, in what economy and at what rate are they going to borrow money to invest in a road? At over 20%? So these are the realities. So how many construction companies have the balance sheet to raise capital to invest in a road? Let me also say that we must draw the distinction between types of infrastructure. Roads are largely social infrastructure. Airport runways are social infrastructure. Very few people want to invest in them. They would rather invest in an airport terminal building where you have shops, malls, where quick cash collection is easier. They're likely to invest more in hospitals where you have bed spaces and patients pay. Food is served and is billed. As against, yes, you can toll some of these routes, but how much toll, how much revenues can you really get if you look at the traffic numbers?
So is that the reason?
I'm not saying that is the reason. I'm giving you a basket of challenges with concession. I'm also saying that concessions take time to negotiate. And this is a nation and a government in a hurry. Some of these concessions don't come through for 3 to 4 years. So let me pick 2 projects that were concession. Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. It did not happen. We spent 8 years and capital could not be raised. That was the truth. Second Niger Bridge was concession to the current contractor with their foreign partners. After a while, they couldn't reach commercial close. So it took the Buhari administration to say, bring back these roads, let me take them over. And now you see work going on Lagos-Ibadan. You see work going on the second Niger Bridge. That is what governments across the world do with regards to transport infrastructure. Even the rail, they seldom make profit. The profit comes from cargo transport, not necessarily from passenger transport. And this is verifiable by those who are interested to know. They can research this. So if you count all of the roads in America, in UK, in Europe, in South Africa, and do a percentage gross, how many of them are concession? What percentage as against what government has directly funded? It is easier after construction for government to then sell off, because government has the biggest balance sheet to take credit. That's the reality, as I understand.
But can that happen in Nigeria? Because there are roads that have been completed by federal government, but poorly maintained over the years. That the ones that we have across the nation would have potholes.
Excuse me. The maintenance problem is a historic one where we haven't created a maintenance economy, and the Buhari government has approved a maintenance program for Nigeria, starting with schools, starting with public buildings, going on to roads, and going on to rail and other infrastructure. That will happen because it's a critical area also for creating employment, road maintenance. So as at yesterday, we held meetings with some of our contractors to say, look, give us proposals about what it will cost us to maintain some of these roads you are currently building when you finish. So we're working along all of this. There's a lot going on that is not yet manifest. And as you said, policy, implementation, and results have a distance between them. But they will happen. Okay? But there is also abuse of the road. Our roads are built to the global international standards. But the use is not compatible with global international standards. First of all, most countries that have very good roads, apart from maintenance, have rail to take heavy cargo. Secondly, at this moment, until most of the rail network is completed, most of all the cargo, fuel, food, construction materials, and all of that, which is very heavy, are on our roads. Now, instead of loading them on 5 trucks, some of our people prefer to load 90,000 tons on one truck. And that damages, no matter how well designed that road is, you begin to stress it, and you are precipitating failure. So, but we are working on all of this. Enforcement of all of this will start next year. We comply. We ensure that nobody loads more than 45,000 tons on our roads from next year.
From all indications, we must borrow to be able to fix our roads.
Well, unless there is another way to find cash. But you see, that unfortunately is the heavy burden that the Honorable Minister for Finance carries for our nation today, and I sympathize with her. In the Ministry of Works, we are a cost center. Our responsibility is to go and spend the money to deliver the infrastructure. But we continue to work with them. So we've taken creative options like the tax credit initiative, which the President approved. That is what the Dangote Group is using to fix the 37-kilometer Apapa-Oshodi-Orunshoki Expressway. That is working. It's working with the NLNG to fix Bodo Boni. It's working in Obajana to Kaba to fix that road. And there are more like that in the pipeline. I think there are about 28 projects like that in the pipeline using the tax credit initiative. There's also the Sukuk, which has helped to advance the development of some other routes. And there are local and also international borrowings. And this is really where we are. So it's a difficult space to operate in, but we are optimistic and we believe that things will get better as we go into the new year. Now that we have a budget that is essentially ready, subject to assent, I think we can all focus more quickly in the new year on how to fund that budget in the most productive period of the dry weather, which is from January to June.
All right, thank you, Honorable Minister. You have actually touched on some of the routes that we actually presented during the opening remarks, but I'd like also to talk about certain routes like Makurdi Kasnala, Zakibiam Road, and of course the Gusau Dansada Road in Zamfara, Bu, Damaturu, and so on. Are those roads now being touched anyway? Is it being constructed, or is there any remedial program going on those roads?
Many of those roads are receiving one form of attention or the other. As I told you, we have 524 of these road projects across the country. And with all the best intention, I can't keep a mental and accurate record of that in my head. So, but let me speak to a news report today that was brought to my attention about the blockade of the Calabar-Itu road. And I think it's important to say that while we sympathize with commuters using that axis and those who live in that axis, there's a contract on that road awarded to a very big construction company. They had to shut down their operations because we were owing them, I think we were owing them about 3 billion naira. So that's why they stopped work, because they didn't have the materials to work again. So this goes back to funding challenges. But with respect, with greatest respect, I do not think that blockading a difficult road helps the situation. it only compounds it, in my view. And some of the reasons that have been given in the report that was shared with me was that, well, they gave government an ultimatum. The truth is that government doesn't work by ultimatums. Raising money to pay the contractor is not a process that will happen by an ultimatum. And it's not an executive responsibility alone. So it is an executive and parliamentary responsibility. The president has done his own part, proposed a borrowing plan. The National Assembly has to look at that plan because they too are answerable to the electorate who elected them. Why did you approve this? So that process will not thrive in an ultimatum. And I think what is important is that people will ask more information, go to some of these websites and handles to understand what is going on before they take matters into their own hands. Because it doesn't also help the commuters if the road is then blocked.
What is the situation at the moment?
Well, I got that report on my way here. I will verify when I leave here what is happening, but I can assure them that they will get relief because Julius Berger, the contractor, was one of the companies that we met with instructions to also go back to site. But people must understand that even the construction company has to move its equipment and its materials through that road that is blockaded. So how do you then deliver a relief? So, and that is why I say blockade is not a strategy, neither is an ultimatum. I think it's a collaborative attitude that helps to solve the problems. We sympathize with those who are aggrieved about it, and it is a situation that we want to quickly put behind us.
All right, at this point, we'd like to thank you for your time and what I've explained to Nigerians. Of course, we have high hopes that many of their roads will be motorable this Yuletide period. We thank you, Honourable Minister, for coming.
Thank you for having me.
And I've been speaking with the Honourable Minister of Works and Housing, Mr. Babatunde Fashola. This is Weekend File. We'll be back in a moment.